What's going on? Welcome back to the Look Mum, I'm Hustling podcast. Final episode of the year here.
I can't believe that we've reached the end of the year.
What do you mean we can't? We've reached the year most years. That's why
I
we're still
know, but
alive.
we had a massive gap, and we're like every time we do this, it just gets easier and easier, right? Like
according to the 6 intros we just tried doing, not really.
Yeah, but it's kind of like we're a bit not unprepared today, but we couldn't. Like, we wanted to do something a little bit different today, not the usual topics, because I think we've talked about a whole bunch of tech and stuff before. Like, obviously, we'll go through some of that, but we wanted to bring in a little bit of, like, a spice into the episode
we have
today.
a gin and tonic here. We had one sip each and we're getting a bit giggly already, and it's not too professional, but that's what you're here for. Number 1 business, science, culture podcast in Australia. You're here for the good times. Should be an interesting show today. We've got a couple of interesting topics. Twitter in turmoil again, non-stop. Pretty much since we started this pod back up and Musk has been in charge, every day is a new debacle, new turmoil going on. Plenty to talk about there. Christie's, you know what Christie's is? Not Agatha Christie.
That's who I know.
Because as soon as you start Googling Christie's, you get research, it's like Agatha Christie.
Could imagine all those romance novels and things like that. But no, you were briefly mentioning it's something to do with art, right?
It's like it's one of the biggest art auction houses. Well, it's global now, but it started in the UK. They had their record billion of... Let me try that intro again. Christie sells record $8.4 billion in art, spurred by big estates and young bidders. So they just had a massive bumper year compared to last year, despite going into like potential recession globally and stuff like that. People, the uber rich, the 9-figure people are still buying spending lots on art, and a lot more young bidders now as well, which is interesting. Millennials are sort of getting in the mix and buying a lot of things, not necessarily art, but more designer goods, watches, jewelry, handbags. That sort of thing.
That's very interesting. Yeah, I thought that would be a little bit more cost effective because, they're the ones that are trying to get into the housing market. They're the ones that are trying to save.
The ones that are buying this stuff already have
houses.
So much property. It's ridiculous.
Well, then.
So we'll get into that. You watch the new, what's his name? I was going to say Jack Branson. Where did I get Jack Branson from?
Because I accidentally called it like Branson earlier, but it's Richard Branson. Not Bronson. Sorry, I called it Branson earlier. Richard Branson.
New doco out, right?
Yes, there's a new doco. Couple of part series over on Binge. Actually, really interesting dude. Like, I don't know too much about him. I just know that in fact he's like the Virgin guy, right?
Virgin guy. And I know a little bit about him. We got a couple of business books by him sitting around that we've never actually read, but everyone sort of knows the name, household name. He has what's the space company called? Virgin Space or something.
Yeah, something like that. Space Orbit.
Do they even talk about it in the doco, or
No, they do. Like, there's a whole reason
why
why
paying attention.
Yeah, I was. Okay. Like, they actually, we'll go into a little bit later, but like they opened it up like with him giving like a, like, if I don't survive, I love you all kind of thing. They started off with like giving a video because he's going to go up into space and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like a suicide note.
Not like a will and testament.
As you can tell, this episode's going to be a little bit goofy, a little bit clunky. It is what it is. End of the year. We're in party mode, right?
Yeah, party, woohoo.
This is coming out on Boxing Day, so we're probably still partying at this point.
I know, but we've actually like worked a little bit and got some listings and stuff done for our eBay store so we can have tomorrow off.
Yes. We worked very hard. Well, I know I did.
Hey, I did too.
No, I'm just joking. And finally, we'll recap a little bit of what we got up to in 2022. And I guess we'll do some like live goal planning, goal setting for 2023, some accountable goals that we can, I guess, do and chat about here in real time. And then this time next year, we can go over it and see how good we hit the mark.
Yeah, see if we actually build it in public or if we completely failed. So we'll go from there.
We failed plenty, and that's what it's all about. I actually ordered a new book. The guy that wrote Dilbert? Bring this up. This is an interesting book, actually.
Dilbert?
Is it Dilbert, the book? Comic strip.
Oh.
Scott Adams has a good book. I forget what it's called. Jesus, I can't even type today. How to fail at almost anything. I just ordered this one on eBay.
Oh, I saw that in the cart. I was like, I wonder what this is about.
Yeah, good deal. How to fail at almost everything and still win big. Kind of the story of my life. So that's an interesting book I'm going to get into. Maybe we can do a little review. Speaking of failures, but it's good to fail. Sometimes it's good falling flat on your face.
Yeah. Well, it's the biggest learning curve, right? They said failure is your biggest teacher. So you've got to be able to fail and fall down, or else if you just keep on winning all the time, then you're just going to get complacent, right? Like, that's the whole thing about like some successful athletes. Like, they have this thing where they just keep winning and winning and winning, but then they lose that competitive edge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then once they do lose it, or what they have their first loss or failure, then it really, that's when the telling signs come out. Are they made for this long term?
100%.
Like Jordan, for example, you lose one game, he's going to be thinking about you for 12 months straight, trying to get back at you the whole time. Some people just don't recover from that sort of thing.
No.
But we will recover in 2023. We'll be back. So let's get into it. Twitter in turmoil. We've been pretty active both on Twitter.
You've been more active than
we post like once a day. More active than some, more active than we used to be anyway.
But like, when is it not in turmoil? But I was thinking earlier today, like it has to be by design from Elon, right? Like he's in the Twitter or in the media space, like what, every day because of some controversy or some news, like he's keeping his name out there.
You think it's intentional? I
think partly. Like he's always say he's a very smart dude. Like he doesn't really do things unintentionally a lot of the time.
Yeah, so we bought Twitter, I think maybe 7 or 8 weeks ago, and like pretty much every day there's a new story, whether it's we're going to cut a lot of advertisers out, we're going to charge for subscriptions. Just recently this week, he's said that you can't share or promote other social media platforms. Like if we want to promote like a Facebook page, for example, it'll pretty much like flag your account and get it taken down.
That was pretty full on. Like
they've removed it, they reversed it already. So a lot of these things, I feel like they're just trying to get a bunch of emotional responses from users and news outlets and stuff reading or writing about them, and then they just do a quick backflip. So it's been every day is something new in the news cycle, and like Twitter's like one of the better sources, not better, but one of the main breaking news sources.
100%
at the moment.
Yeah, like if there's anything like recent going on, right, you'd go like it takes a while for like the common news places to be able to gather that information and put like a story out, whereas like it's people in real time putting up news.
Well, it started with we did that episode a couple of weeks ago about the trolls, about when they were got fired. The mass layoff, right?
Yeah.
And then he's done a bunch of stuff since then. But it's interesting because I think I was just reading just earlier, like Tesla stock is down like 9%, had its third worst day in stock market this year because there's just so many fears that he's like dividing his energy and resources across too many projects.
Yeah.
And now Tesla's going down. But I mean, he's always been doing stuff. He's had that solar company.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was going to build a massive solar battery in South Australia at one point.
I think he did build that already.
Did he?
I think so. Like, I'm pretty sure he did. But yeah, they were saying that he has like, well, he even said himself he's got heaps on his plate at the moment. Yeah.
He was building a massive underground highway in, I think, LA at one point. I'm sure you can't just abandon that mid project.
No. Yeah, just for all the vehicles and stuff. But I think once he's discovered like Twitter's like an onion, right? So as he like delves deeper, it keeps like peeling back layers and layers and layers. He'd be like, far out, this is like so much more than I thought it would be, or so much more than I can handle.
Yeah.
Especially with all the aspects of like the government input.
Well, yeah, the Twitter files. I was listening yesterday, like all the Twitter files about the what's his name?
Biden?
Biden's son, Hunter Biden, laptop scandal, all the suppression of information. There was, I think, CIA or government agencies that were FBI paying, I guess, some person at Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, where's the money end up? Like, who makes the decision and where the money goes is a whole different can of worms. But they're basically paying to suppress information or to highlight other users or to hide other users. There was a bunch of journalists that were exposing Elon's flight plans and where his like private jet was.
Yeah.
So there's just like so much going on, right? And then this week is kind of like the precipice of like the breaking point almost. The straw that broke the camel's back. He did a poll asking, should I step down? And it was pretty unanimous. I think it was like 17 million votes.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in the high 60s.
Yeah. Well, they said it was like 60% of Twitter users, I think, voted on it.
Really? Did you vote?
No. Did you vote?
I did vote.
Oh, what did you say? Yes or no?
I was like, no. I want to see like I want to see this unravel. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then there's like the talk about bots on the platform. A lot of Russian, Chinese bot farms that just promote certain ideologies.
Yeah, because that was one of his biggest issues to begin with. He's like, I don't want those bots and stuff on there. And like, he's big on free speech and just wanting that aspect. But yeah, I think it's like he posted this by design, right? Like he probably already planned on stepping down, but he's popped this out just to make it like that's what the people wanted. So that's what he's doing.
Yeah. So there's no fallback, no repercussions in saying that he stepped down willingly.
Yeah, he's doing what the platform wanted in a way.
Let's just bring up his Twitter just to see what's going on because every hour there's something new.
Oh, there'd have to be, yeah.
So like you can talk through it while I manage the screen.
Is he wearing like a superhero costume?
He's wearing an Iron Man costume.
Oh, is he? Of course he is. So tweets are read 100 times more than they are liked.
Yes, that's a new feature they're rolling out apparently as well. They're going to start showing views.
Right.
So is this the view tab? Right. So like previously, you would get the impressions.
Mhm.
So how many times like people like scroll past your post, but this is like more how many people like actually viewing.
stopping and reading.
I'm not sure how it's calculated because if you scroll past, is that a view? Like I imagine it's probably clicking into it potentially.
Yep.
Like a YouTube view, but I mean that news broke yesterday that they were going to release that and it's out already. Maybe we should see how many views we get. Not many. If you are listening to the pod and you haven't followed us on social media, you can follow us on Twitter at LookMumPod. We'll bring up the socials for you. Let's see what I'm dropping Twitter into the Twitter search bar.
Yes.
We are getting a bit
on fire.
We're on fire today.
Woohoo, holiday mode.
Look, Mum Pod, we've got 8 followers, guys. We appreciate any support. Also, while we're here, we haven't really promoted or asked for people to, I guess, follow and rate and review the podcast since we've been back. So this is your chance while it's still fresh in the episode. We have a little... We'll call this an ad break.
Oh, a little ad break for Look Mum Hustling Pod. So, yeah, if you do like the content that we're making, if you do like the conversations that we have, feel free to, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube as well. And don't forget to drop a review. Let us know what you think on all those different platforms as well. Like, we'd really appreciate it. I think feedback is such a vital aspect to help a channel or help a person grow and evolve and get better. So always happy to hear what you all think out there.
Yeah, but the majority of our listens do come from Apple podcast users. So all the Apple users jump on there and give us a rating and review, a fair one. We don't expect a 5. If you think we're a 1.5 or a 4, give us your honest feedback. We'll get better. So do that. And then the main other thing we're trying to push is the YouTube channel. So jump on there, give us a sub, smash that like button.
Look at that.
Drop a comment.
We should really update the header as well. That's our old podcast studio.
Yeah. I mean, straight away, we got a goal board. So right on there later, update the social handles and stuff. And you were saying even though they backflipped on that idea, you literally changed like the link tree and stuff in the episode when you found out about that Twitter news as well. Right. You can't share link tree address links either.
Yeah, but you said they backflipped, so that's fine now, right? Yeah.
So our latest one, episode 42, talking about Avatar, got 172 views. Not bad.
That's not too bad.
2 little reshares, probably from us.
Most likely.
So it is working. There's the new feature is working. So that's one of his latest tweets. Tesla, they got a new car record in Norway. There's something here about views and impressions. So there's always a lot happening. It's kind of like he's feeding his own news cycle onto his own platform. So it's 100%. Like if the Washington Post was like making stories about the Washington Post every day. Mm-hmm. Interesting, right? Well,
I can see why he's doing it because it actually ties into the Richard Branson, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but being someone who's in charge of so many companies, like for them to be current and for them to be modern, you sort of need a spokesperson, right? You need someone who's always putting themselves out there, someone who's always like, it's almost like the influencer branding in a way, but he's just doing it himself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was the whole thing about Tesla, right? He saved so much on marketing because he was doing it himself.
There's not even really ads for Tesla though.
No, well, that's the thing.
It's word of mouth.
Yeah. Well, it's like, think about how much he's out there, right? How much he's in the media, how much he's always constantly being around. His name's always going to be attached to Tesla. Yeah. So they're going to be like, oh, what's this?
But they're not like running ads for like, check out the new Tesla model with these features. They're not promoting features and benefits. Classic sales strategy.
You mean it's not like one of those classic Jeep or Toyota ads where they're driving through the mountaintops and they're like, woo.
Like he sells it. People will just buy it because of him. It's like that, listen to that Naval podcast earlier. And if you have enough notoriety and enough consistency over time with your message and like your overall messaging, essentially, then you can leverage your name. Mm-hmm. And that's what he does. Like people just go where he goes. They follow him around.
Yeah.
Another improvement on Twitter is the introduction of cash tags. So you can see stock prices and stuff directly in the app because there's a lot of crypto, NFT and investing sections of Twitter. So that would be kind of interesting and helpful for a quick glimpse of some info. I'm pretty sure you don't want to see Tesla stock right now down 9%. Not as much as when he smoked weed on the Rogan podcast. I think it dropped it was a much larger amount than
it was a huge amount, right?
9 or 10, yeah.
He can do what he wants. That's fine. All that superpowered. But yeah, it's really interesting, to see what he's doing next and who is going to be taking over Twitter. Who's going to take over that job?
I've seen 2 people put their hands up already. Mr. Beast
Oh, really?
Yep.
I don't know if he's like.
And Fred Durst.
Wait, Fred Durst from.
It could be a troll post. It was on like news.com.
Right. Like, I could see Mr. Beast wanting to do it, but I don't know. He seems like. I feel like Twitter would crush him, right?
Fred Durst volunteers Limp Bizkit to help at Twitter for some reason. I guess they got a new album coming. I mean, why?
It has to be marketing, right?
Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Marketing.
I'm not going to get into this article.
No.
That's obviously just a joke to get the name out there. There's no business those guys doing that. So yeah, that'd be interesting. Speaking of art and artists and music, we'll get onto the Christie story, right?
Mm.
So Christie's is an auction house in the UK. It has a bunch of global affiliates. Asia's a huge market for it as well.
Yeah.
Christie's sells record 8.4 billion in art. 8.4 billion.
That's a lot
spurred
of money.
by big estates and young bidders. So basically, they sell, it's like consignment. So they get huge art collections of people once they've passed away or died.
Oh, like a deceased estate auction almost in a way? Yeah.
Or people can just like, you commission like a single piece or whatever. But like generally it's super, super wealthy. Not much. I mean, it's all like $1 million plus.
Yeah, I'm sure there's super wealthy people out there that like have, 10, not 10,000, but probably have like a couple of hundred homes, right? And they're like, let's just downsize a little bit and sell some of the art and get a little bit of cash flow.
A lot of it is just, the cash flow, I'll get into that cash flow in a second, but a lot of it is when they pass away and they just got nothing to do with it. The family stuff don't really want to do anything with it, and then it can, set up their generational wealth further down the line. Pardon me. Christie said its sales broke. This is a Wall Street Journal article. Christie said its sales broke down to. Let me start again. Christie's International said Monday it sold 8.4 billion in art this year, up 17% from the year before. Up 17%.
That's a lot. Like usually most businesses would be aiming for like a 5 to 10% increase, right? Like for a business like that to be up 17%, that's huge.
Which was lifted by the 1.6 billion total estate sale of Microsoft co-founder Paul Allen, who passed away, I think, a couple of years ago. He actually left Microsoft in the 80s, so I don't know how he's made his money then, like since then, unless he had like
big royalties of some sort.
He had equity, equity in the company. He's just been making 5% on every transaction,
100%,
40 years.
Yeah.
Christie said its sales broke down to 7.2 billion in auction sales. So a lot of it is on auction. They have internet auction. Basically, they have the auction running, and people can bid by phone or internet or in person. So 7.2, which is like 7.2 of the 8.4 is from auction, which was up 33%. So auction sales up 33%. And then the remaining 1.2 billion is from privately brokered art sales. So that was down 30%. So like auctions are increasing. People want to get a deal and get a stealing deal, right?
Yeah. It's like I wouldn't think that it'd be up so much, right? Like maybe like year before, like when COVID was sort of ended, heaps of people had a lot more money to spend and, they were going that thing. But yeah, it's very surprising they actually made a lot more money with art sales. Like,
well, they don't make the money. They make a small commission on it.
Yeah. But I'm just surprised that people are, spending so much money to be able to buy those things when we're coming into like a pretty crazy recession.
Well, the money has to flow from somewhere. Like this guy's amassed such a huge fortune and now it's dispersed into another 10 different collectors, right? And then in 20, 30, 40 years, those collectors, it spreads further and further, which is sort of another point to this article about the millennials are making bigger waves in the art market and buying up more and more. So it's sort of like the boomers are like moving on or passing stuff down or passing away.
Gotcha.
And then their wealth is getting transferred further down the line.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Because a lot of them probably are so focused on their business, they don't have a lot of offspring to like pass it down to.
No, that'd be true. Or they just like have rat bag kids or something like that and they don't want
Spoiled
to.
rat bag kids.
Yeah. But like that's what like super wealthy people are known for, right? Is like hoarding their wealth and like hoarding their assets and stuff. And like art is such a popular asset to hold on to because it's just goes up in price, like it doesn't decrease.
Yeah.
It goes up in price.
If you get the right stuff, though, that's like a whole nother story. Like the more I read about this, the more I'm like, I know nothing about art or artists or how would you pick which one to buy and hold. It's years of research and stuff. Obviously, there's personal taste and what have you, and the top 5%, 10% of the globally known artists are the ones you sort of chase. I guess the blue chip artists. But yeah, it comes down to personal taste, and you got to. I guess you take a chance on a lot of this stuff as well. So the auction house reported its earnings days after their rival Sotheby's. So that's the second biggest one.
Yeah, that's the one I knew. Like, I never heard of the other one, but I knew about Sotheby's.
So I listened to a Business Wars podcast where it's those two sort of battling it out, and there's a sketchy history there.
Oh, wow.
They like had a lot of collusion back in the day about having a fixed commission rate for both auction houses.
Right.
It got found out, so they can be like, regardless, whoever wants to come to us and sell, like put their art through us, we get the same commission regardless. So they're just market fixing essentially, like heaps dodgy stuff. I imagine it's all been.
Well, I could imagine there'll just be heaps dodgy stuff in the art world in general anyway, with like fakes and cons and.
There's dodgy stuff enough in people that are dealing in $1,000 items, let alone 100 million.
Yeah.
Right. So Sotheby's said it sold 7.7 billion in 2022, which is down 7%.
Oh, right.
So it's sort of like, is the art market going up or down, or is Christie's getting more of the bigger commission pieces?
Yeah, well, they said a lot of it was due to Paul Allen's estate,
Yes.
right? So, like, if they didn't get that estate, would they be up that
Well,
much?
they fight over it, a lot of that stuff. There's a lot of jostling and backhand deals. The world's top auction houses are jockeying for the chance to resell blue chip collections amassed by baby boomers, like I said earlier, while also courting younger buyers who want watches, handbags, contemporary artists of their own generation. So this is in May, the auction house here sold Andy Warhol portrait of Marilyn Monroe for $195 million.
Oofed.
I think that's about.
That's an iconic piece, though,
I think it's
right?
about a meter by a meter, that one.
Mm-hmm. Super iconic.
And you can go on YouTube and they do auctions all the time. You can watch them live, and there's videos of them how there's the whole rooms based on like framing them for display and everything like that. Like, it's really interesting. The roughly 1,200 millennials who now bid regularly in its sales are far more comfortable bidding online than older collectors, but the millennials prefer to start at lower prices.
Isn't that, I just feel like that might be a form of like gambling, not gambling in a way, but like think how accessible online gambling is, like online auctions. They're like, oh yeah, easy. Online.
Well, a lot of them are pretty internet, crypto millionaires, tech billionaires,
Yeah, true.
Silicon Valley.
They spend a lot of time online. Yeah.
So the boomers are like the ones that are jet setting, probably have a yacht. You know, they got more luxuries and more time on their hands.
Yeah, they're all retired, right?
Yeah. The newcomers are broadening into photography, design and art, bidding for or winning 30% of the house's luxury and contemporary offerings this year. So they get a lot more handbags and stuff like that. Look at this Richard Mille watch. Around 40% of Christie's younger buyers are also hailed from Asia.
Interesting.
So the president of Christie's Asia said younger collectors across Asia are moving away from classic Asian art to join more in the global hunt for Western luxury items. So they're getting less stuff from their homeland, and those famous pieces are moving more into, I guess, westernized pieces of art or fancy merchandise.
Yeah. Well, it's the old tale of like showing off your wealth, right? Like people would have
status.
Yeah, exactly. People would have cars and watches and all that kind of stuff. But if you start inviting people over, someone be like, oh, that's good. You're like, thank you. It costed $100 million.
So like we've got a bunch of posters here on the ground that we leave on this table here where we're doing the pod. And we're waiting to frame, and none of them are like fancy, but they're all, I guess, promotional pieces for museum displays. And that's another thing I was reading here. I'll quickly pull up you can actually see each piece, right? So this is the Paul Allen collection, and it was sold in 2 parts over 2 days. And you can see how much they expected them to go for, and then the price that it actually
Lot
got.
14 and 22 are really nice. I love the colors. What? They are.
Very nice colors.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is you go into them and you can see the history, the provenance of the item. So like in crypto, like the whole thing is the blockchain. You can track it back to the artist, who's bought it, how much it's sold for. But these go back hundreds of years, right? And you can track, because they're so expensive.
You need to be able to make sure they're real.
Exactly.
Yeah. So this person owned it at this time. Yeah.
So let's go through. You can pick one that you like, and we can like track its history a bit. So the most expensive one that sold was 150 million is this George Seurat ensemble piece, a bunch of some naked people. A lot of it's just naked people.
Yeah.
Like realistically.
Well, it's like, they didn't have like movies and photography and stuff back then. So all they could do was paint it and then, sexy time.
A lot of breastfeeding and stuff.
Yep.
You pick one. You pick
Keep
one
going.
that you like.
There's more. Let's have a look.
So they're going down in value as we scroll down.
Right. Yeah. For those that are just listening to us and have no idea what we're doing, we're currently on the Christie's website and just having a look at some of the art pieces. Maybe go to the Van Gogh one at the top.
Van Gogh one at the top.
Yeah. So just the...
So it's the Van Gogh Virga Acares Cypress. I think it's called something else. I think it's called Something in Cypress Trees.
Yeah. Looks very lovely.
So you can see the actual artwork. You can see the back frame to see what it was like, what it was framed like.
Oh, wow. I feel like it's probably very tiny, right?
Well, we'll have a look. So Vincent van Gogh, 25 and 3/4 inch, so 65 by 80 centimeters.
Oh, okay, it's not too bad.
Pretty small size of this TV almost.
Yeah.
Like, it's not huge, but it is an original, right? Painted in Arles in April 1888.
Oh, it's like it's 1,000 years before.
100 years.
100 years before our birthday. Our birth year.
We're really good on the math and the talking today, aren't we?
I think we're heaps good at the moment.
So you can see the provenance. Theo van Gogh, Paris, acquired from the artist in May and then passed on to Descent. And then it just sort of goes between art gallery and art gallery and then eventually is sold.
Mm-hmm.
Then it has a bunch of literature that it has been featured
referenced in. Yeah.
Yep.
A lot of art
And
books.
this is the interesting part. Exhibited.
Right.
So these are all the times and dates that it was exhibited at certain museums and art displays and galleries.
Oh, right. Because, yeah, you can own the art, but you can still donate it or have it shown in a gallery.
You wouldn't be donating it because it's so expensive. What would you be doing?
Oh, my God, leasing it?
Yes.
So the galleries are paying you to have your art.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
That's something I had never thought of, and it makes total sense. That's hustle, right?
Wow.
Perfect hustle episode tie-in.
Yeah.
And I did a quick sort of search about renting and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's the actual museum themselves, they don't have a lot of money. A lot of it's coming from like national grants for tourism and stuff like that.
There's a lot of like private funding and donations and stuff.
But yeah, they're like if there's a Vincent van Gogh exhibition, they need all the pieces they can get. And,
yeah, true.
And they just rent it out.
Yeah.
So not only do you make your capital gains on the sale, obviously a lot of the money is made when you pass away posthumously.
But if you rent it out on a regular basis, you can just get your money back on it.
Exactly.
Oh, it's like car share.
Yeah, at a much larger scale.
At a much larger scale.
So that's what I thought was interesting. You know, like how many pieces, hundreds and hundreds of pieces here, and then they're probably frequently leased out to different museums, which is really interesting point. And that brings me like, we can skip over this real quick, but that's another interesting point is, you know, like these auction houses do NFTs and stuff. Now NFTs fell at Christie's 96% in 2022. We all know there's a bit of a bust going on. There's a bit of a crypto winter happening.
Yeah.
But instead of like, you don't want to transport all these items all the time, right? Because we've been to the Sydney Museum a bunch of times. Imagine if they have $100 million piece coming in once a week. Security detail, all the provisions required to get it there safely. Nightmare logistically. So now Christie's are investing in this company where you can basically display stuff holographically. It's going to work better with sculptures and stuff. Yeah. If you're just listening to the pod, I recommend jumping on Spotify and YouTube. We have video for every episode. We display a lot of stuff on the TV screen here. It'll just make the episode a bit more enjoyable and get to see us as well, which is a bonus.
So that hologram thing's such an interesting idea because, like, at least your art won't be stolen like Ocean's 11 style, right?
That's true. That's a good movie, actually.
Yeah, it is a good movie.
Are they're all on museums or like?
No, the first one's a casino. I think the last one's a museum, maybe.
Right.
Yeah, or maybe none of them are museums.
What's better, a bank heist or an art heist?
I'd say an art or
art is more risky because cash you can leave a bit of cash behind, right? You can fill your duffel bags up.
Cash is cash, right? You can probably not resell it, but like with art, it'd be hard to like you'd have to actually sell it on the black market. You'd have to sell it to like some sort of, you know, person in some European country that doesn't know or doesn't care and be like, yes, I want that on my wall.
Was a bunch of good documentaries and books about fake artists and stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm. They do it with the wine all the time. They make fake wines, sell them off for hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, I've been trying to find good art documentaries. So if you guys have any recommendations for learning about art or different eras of art, Impressionism, 20th, 21st century, all that sort of stuff, I know nothing. Yeah. It's just really fascinating. But it's a deep, deep rabbit hole. But pretty much every doco I find is about the scammers as opposed to like, here's a story about Pablo Picasso.
Yeah. Like you'd only be able to find those like when you're in high school, you go to like art school or something, you have like those sort of National Geographic sort of like deep dives. I'm sure there'll be some good YouTube videos out there. There'll probably be some good like paid for ones or, you know, straight to DVD sort of style documentaries. Yeah. But yeah, I don't think there would be much on Netflix to actually give you that. Everything you need to know about Van Gogh, everything you need to know about the Mona Lisa.
You need to get a library card is what you're saying.
You have a library card.
digital one. I don't know. Can I rock up there? And
No, where's your physical one? You got one posted in the mail.
I don't
You got
know.
it during COVID. You're like, I've got a library card.
I remember going when I was at uni. Like the library was awesome.
Yeah, I used to love going to the library because you'd rent books. I remember going to the library and studying for the HSC. All of us would go there
It's
and
just
be
not
in like a
enough
little study
time. Like
corner.
it's just like every shelf is like there's about 100 books you could pick up and be interested in.
Oh, 100%. Like I was a big book nerd. Like in high school, I'd go on my lunch break and, read some books about
We need to figure out
vampires
a
or
way
whatever.
we need to figure out a way we can get paid to just read books and just do not even book reviews, just be paid to read.
Like Ryan Holiday style almost.
Yeah,
Just reads all the time. Yeah.
So that's Christie's. That's art. I was kind of want to go to there's a couple of art fairs. There's a really good one in Sydney. I'll bring it up real quick and then we'll get onto the next topic.
Yeah.
Sydney art.
Like Sydney does have some really cool art galleries. You've got the modern art gallery. You've got the standard one.
There's
Beloved Sydney punk band.
This one here. So Powerhouse has launched a major new exhibition showcasing the 90s alt rock music scene. So it's got a bunch of Nirvana and Beastie Boys artwork and posters and stuff like
that's
that.
cool.
Yeah.
When's that?
It's on now. It's on for a couple of months.
Why do you always find the good stuff?
Because I have time to invest in
Googling.
Experiences. Never get around to them, but I enjoy looking into them. So it's called Unpopular. If you're in Sydney, go and check it out. Hopefully we get there. It's just a bunch of like Nirvana and
That's
punk
mad.
stuff from that
I've
era.
got to quit my day job, man, so I can just look at this stuff all day long.
Speaking of music,
Yes.
we're going to get onto your topic
Yes.
that you bring up. Richard Branson.
Well, it's not. It's just
Well, it's not
something-
music. Well, it is Virgin
Well,
Music.
No, 100%. It is definitely music related. But it was just like one of those things, like while I was trying to find something a little bit extra to bring across, because I wasn't really super stoked about some of the news articles. And that's what we try to do. Try to bring news articles that we're interested in.
Business, science, culture.
Yeah, but stuff that we're interested in.
In those three buckets.
Yeah, exactly. And I was looking for like a good 20 minutes for like something to watch. Then Drew was like, comes over and be like, what about this? And I was like, awesome, perfect, because I actually don't know too much about it. So Sir Richard Branson.
Got his name right that time.
I did, yes. British guy, if you didn't know.
Gentleman.
Sir, yeah, he's a sir.
Give him some respect.
Yeah, Sir Richard Branson. I feel like I should know a little bit more about him because I am half British. What?
And you just watched the documentary about him.
Yeah, well, I do know a little bit more about him now, but he's actually a pretty interesting guy. Like, I just thought, before I knew too much about, obviously, being in our own business, I sort of understand the idea of being an entrepreneur and having that business mindset. But the image that I had of him, if you wanted to Google what he looks like.
Well, I mean, just put
Yeah,
up Google
pretty
images
much.
for the sake of it. Yeah.
The image that I had was just like this guy that always had, beautiful women on the side and was always like kind of
Check.
schmarmy or like just always like loud and exuberant and everything just in the media. But after watching the documentary, I realized a lot of it was by design, which reminds me of the whole, I'm not jumping ahead, don't worry, the whole Elon Musk aspect of like being in that media, right? Being that brand, being that face name so you're always getting talked about.
Right. So
Yeah.
he isn't smarmy. He doesn't have a bunch of
No.
model girlfriends.
No, he's actually been, I think they only just got married recently, but he's been with his current partner for like 30 plus years. Like he was, he's actually quite a humble sort of dude after finding out a little bit more about him. So, do you know much about Richard Branson?
Only from just, I mean, he's not really talked about in the news. Once in a while you see him spruik some new Virgin airplane or something, but I've always like, I guess on face appearance, face value, like liked him. There's nothing I dislike about him. He's always seemed quite humble based on the 2-minute interviews that you do see. But again, people are like different on the face level compared to deep, like when you get to know them, right? But like for someone that's that rich and influential and has made that much of a difference to the business world and to air flight and everything, like he seems pretty level-headed from what I can gather. Again, that's based on like limited information.
Yeah. No, 100%. Like, and he's always had this sort of mindset as well. Like he's come from an upper middle class family, was always kind of like well-to-do and stuff, but him and his whole family have dyslexia, which I thought was super interesting.
Right.
Like he's always had this bit of struggle to be able to articulate what he wants to do, and he's always been quite a shy person. So he started off doing like a magazine company when he was in high school or college.
Yep.
And it was just a sort of like a political, he wanted to start a national youth magazine. And that was like one of his whole things was.
It's called Students.
Yeah, exactly.
Super creative.
He's always wanted to start things that no one's ever done, or he sees a gap in the market and he's like, I can fill this gap.
What was different about the magazine that he was trying to try?
So there was no student national magazine. So he realized
national. So they had just like a college specific one.
Exactly, yeah. So what he really wanted to do was bring a voice together and bring a voice to the young people because the Vietnam War was going on, and he realized that no young person had a voice. So he wanted to make a national magazine.
To hear points of view and from other people from different universities and different social classes and then political classes as well. Interesting.
100%. And it's one of those things where you've talked about how you just do things, right? And then opportunities start to arise.
Yep.
So that's how he actually got into the whole record company as well. So one thing they started doing was selling like records through their magazine was one aspect.
Smart.
Yeah. And then it started making them made to order as well. So they weren't overspending or anything like that. And then even if they didn't have the money, they'd get the money for the records and then go buy them and then ship them out and everything as well.
So super frugal, sort of, I guess, week to week. So not in terms of like how people think about things, week to week paycheck is sort of drop to drop almost.
Yeah.
Wasn't like you said, wasn't overspending, printing thousands of CDs. It's just the cash flow was tight to make things work.
Yeah. And he was the main sort of networker as well. So one thing that he always talks about, which I think is quite common with entrepreneurs, is he might not have all the skills, but he knows who to employ that's going to help him make it successful. So he'll have the idea, he'll be like the visionary, but then he'll start cultivating people around him. So yes, he started the magazine, but he had someone else that was like running the magazine for him.
So hiring super strategically, which is not an easy thing to do.
No, well, he said he just hires based on gut feeling as well.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's just like
intuition.
Exactly. He just seems like one of those guys that's always had a gut feeling. Like, yes, he's had a lot of failed businesses, but there's a lot of things that has been successful. He's just like tried it, and then it's become successful from there. And I think that's where the whole Virgin name sort of comes from as well. Like he wants to do things for the first time. Like he's wants to put himself out there. And he does reference the whole ego aspect and being like that first person out there, but he sees a hole in the market and he wants to fill it.
So how did he go from magazine to record label, Virgin record label, and then into how do you make, like, not many companies cover two such polarizing or different gamuts of industry, right?
No,
like
definitely.
Music and then transport.
Yeah, exactly. And
how does that happen?
So he had, so they were selling vinyls or records through the magazine. And then I think there was a big postal strike. And so no one was being able to get their records or deliver their records. So they ended up figuring out, be like, all right, let's get our own shop. So that's what they ended up doing, was just getting their own shop somewhere in a little town, like a little town, but like in London, and then started filling up that. And then he was like, he realized that he didn't like being not like the slave, but like he didn't like having to rely on other people. So then he started to figure out how to manufacture your own sleeves, how to make your own vinyl, like all that kind of stuff. Like started figuring out he needed to do it in-house a little bit more.
So yeah, you wanted to cut out middlemen, keep profits in-house.
100%. Cut costs, keep the profits. Yeah.
Interesting. So you just start producing your own plastic CD cases,
exactly,
importing them from China or whatever you do.
Yeah, so he ended up figuring out how to do that, and then started, making their own records and all that kind of stuff. And then it was more of like okay, what's the next stage? What can we do? How can we make more money? One thing they actually got in trouble for was they were like traveling to like different countries in Europe to get records and stuff across, and they had some weird import tax rules and all that kind of thing. So he ended up getting like arrested for like tax fraud super early on. And then there was a huge fine, but he made a deal to be able to pay it off over time. And like, what's one way that we can do that? Like, all right, we need to open more stores. They just ended up opening more record stores.
Yep.
And then that started generating more money for them. And then from there, they're like, what's next? All right, we need to make our own labels. They ended up buying a house in the middle of the countryside, ended up getting a loan from his aunt who had like a super high interest rate to keep him humble, apparently. And then they realized, all right, so now we've got a little record studio. We need artists as well.
Yep.
Because they're like these little, this little Virgin record company was like, who are they? Because the Beatles or whatever would want to sign to some huge people.
Of course.
Right. So one thing that did really well for them is they had someone called Mike Oldfield just hanging about.
Never heard of him.
Oh, really?
Mike, does he go by a different
Have you not heard of Tubular Bells?
Like the instrument?
No, Tubular Bells, the album.
song?
Mark
No.
Oldfield. So
I mean, probably. I mean, we're going to get flagged straight away for blowing that. But
no, we won't play it. But yeah, Tubular Bells is like the most popular instrumental sort of style album, right?
Okay.
So they ended up doing this one. And again, in Richard Branson's smart marketing, he was like, all right, how can we put our name out there? How can we, make us heaps popular? And again, they did everything in-house. They designed their own artwork and all that kind of stuff as well. They literally just let him use the studio at nighttime, and he just made this like during nighttime and all that kind of stuff. They ended up getting a song in The Exorcist.
Right.
Yeah, and that sort of put them, that was like the first benchmark to put them on, like to make them well known.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But how do they get to planes?
Yeah, so it's like a
Obviously a long story that you didn't just jump from our record company to planes, but like what was the bridging gap between those two? Was it like you had vans or you had
No,
trucks?
he went straight to like planes and stuff. So
okay, yep.
So the biggest thing was having to build up that wealth to get there, right? So they got, this was like the first step in getting
how many
like
stores
an artist.
do they have? 200 stores,
like heaps of stores. Yeah, so stores all around. But then they ended up signing a little old artist that no one else wanted to sign called the Sex Pistols.
Oh, damn it.
Oh, you're gonna say the Sex Pistols?
I would have guessed.
Oh, sorry, I should have let you guess. That would have been way more fun. But no one wanted to sign them at all because they were loud, they were angry, they always made like a, damaged property and all that kind of stuff.
New York was already popping.
100%.
Popping at roughly the same time.
Exactly, yeah. So they ended up signing the Sex Pistols, and obviously that just then bankrolled into everything else because you know how popular they ended up being. So then...
You just got your little...
I know, I got my little notes, yeah. So then after all that and signing the Sex Pistols and stuff, he got this bright idea of wanting to buy an island.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously in the Virgin Islands. Yeah.
I see the tie-in.
Yeah. So he ended up wanting to buy them because they were called the Virgin Islands, right?
As just a brand, as a personal like status thing, or is it more just as like a business marketing thing?
A bit of both, I think. Like again, he acknowledges his ego, like he wants to be out there a little bit. But again, during like the whole record stage of his life, he wasn't super in the limelight just yet. So yeah, he saw an island. He offered like $80,000 for it.
Jesus
I know,
Christ.
right?
When's this, in the 70s?
Yeah, about in the 70s. And it wasn't until about a year later. So they said if you pay us $120 for it and build within a certain time frame, you'll end up getting it. So he ended up paying $120,000 for an island.
Jesus.
And then started building up on it. And then artists were building on it and all that kind of stuff as well, and turned it into a bit of a resort.
Right. And then he just eventually accumulated so much revenue from all the stores and stuff that I mean, how do you start an airline?
So there's like two conflicting stories. You've got one where he was like, he wanted to get to the islands and then he was like, couldn't fly there, or there were like delays. And he's like, far out, there should be an easier way to do this, because the biggest airline at the time was British Airways.
Yep.
And they were like just a hoity-toity sort of like, old school sort of airways. And then the other story was someone came up to him with an idea and he was like, all right, break it down for me. And then he was like, all right, let's do this deal.
So did he start with, like, I'm just looking here, would have just started with tiny little...
Started with one plane.
Yeah. And then just built up to these massive jumbo jet
Yeah,
things.
he was like, he just went to Boeing and he was like, can I buy a old little plane? So he ended up starting one. Then he had two planes.
I suppose you don't really make a plane. You buy it from Boeing and just slap your branding on it.
100%. That's what they do. Like Boeings make the planes and then you put your branding on it.
That's so interesting. What is it worth? Do you think, because there's so many books, every time we go to the thrift store, there's a Branson business book. Do you think, what's the documentary called? Just Branson, right?
Yeah, 100%.
We'll move on from this in a second, but what if people are interested, would you recommend, do you think this documentaries, like what would you rate it? And do you think if you read like 2-3 books, it would be more enlightening or more inspirational for up-and-coming business owners?
I think probably the books would be a little bit more inspirational. The documentary is really good. It pulls out the heartstrings. You can tell that he cares a lot. You can see his emotion. You can see the up and downs, like when the island, there was like a couple of tornadoes or hurricanes and a couple of things like that. But they don't really highlight his failures too much in it at all.
Of course.
Yeah, so he has have a couple of, obviously with being in business, you have multiple failures. So it's more about his successes and his wins. But something that was really interesting about the doco is because he ended up doing, when it became to the Virgin Airways or the Virgin flight, that's when he realized because it wasn't doing so well, he had to be in the limelight. He had to be that spokesperson. He had to be, weird and kooky and all that kind of stuff. But there's just now so much footage of him being on camera, having interviews and all that kind of thing that the documentary really ties in this old footage from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s.
Receipts.
Yeah, exactly. So just receipts of his successes and, British Airways like trying to do dirty deals and like taking him down, and he took him to court and he won. Like,
so having a figurehead, like you said, like Elon Musk,
exactly,
sets you apart from the competition.
100%. Like it really keeps you in the media, keeps you known, and that's why he's always doing
You have to be
stunts.
super charming and charismatic, obviously, as well, right?
Yeah. But that's why he does a lot of, and he's heaps into like extreme sports or like ballooning, I think it's called, flying across the Atlantic.
I've seen him do some risky stuff with some hot models, kite surfing.
Yeah, so he's done kite surfing. He's got a couple of
adventure guy. Look at him. It's just like, okay.
Yeah, but it's all branding, right? Like it's to try and get in there, get your name out there, because like if you see his name attached to Virgin, right? Like when you go book something next, when you go to somewhere next, you're like, oh, I'm going to go for that.
Yeah. There's no one at Qantas that makes you want to fly.
I don't even know who the names are at Qantas
just
at all.
Dweeb with glasses.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's just one of those things of putting him in there. And then something that he sort of did later on was super smart. He's licensed the Virgin name, so he doesn't have to have too much input. They have a whole bunch of set of rules if you want to use that Virgin name to attach to your product or to your item. And he just has to, he reaps the benefits from it.
Takes the cut.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm sure he's one of these guys that have a lot of life extension technologies and health procedures and regimens implemented. Like he's going to be around for hopefully a while, right?
100%. They're ending up the documentary because he started his space program, the Virgin Orbit, it's called.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure just today or the other day he got greenlit to actually go into space. Like the company got greenlit to do space travel. And so he was just like working out, riding bikes, being fit. He's like, I know you don't really have to, but like I want to be my fittest when I go into space.
Of course. He's got too much riding on it.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's plenty of stuff to look forward to. And I guess that we can start looking forward to 2023 for ourselves, right?
Yes.
How are we going to approach this topic? We got some, we were going to recap 2022 and take the screen off if you like. And talk about our highlights.
Oh, no.
Sorry, I'll just set it up. Keep talking while I do this.
See if it goes back. All right. So I think something that we can do, is it working? We'll see.
Keep talking.
Yeah, my bad. I don't know, like we've been talking a little bit on past episodes how I've been going with our business, sort of what we've been doing. I'm pretty sure on the first or second episode of this new, not rebranding, but the sort of reiteration that we've done. Yeah, season 2, that we sort of talked what we've been up to. But I think when it comes to this type of thing, right? So when you're doing goal setting, it's more about, I guess, having a bit of reflection on what happened last year, but really what happened beginning of this year, but really going to see what's going to be beneficial for us next year.
Yep.
But it comes down to a few main areas, right? So we've got our pod, we've got our business.
Sorry. Yep. It's not going to work. Let's just bring up goals in Google Images and just leave that up in the background.
Goals. Love that.
Yep. So we have sorry, go again.
Yeah. So there's a few main areas, right? So we've got our podcast, we've got our business.
Yep.
Then we've got YouTube. And then there's the not little socials, but you got your Instagram and your Twitter. But not
personal brands.
Yeah, personal branding, but within each area. So just say for the podcast, for example, you've got, like think about podcasters, either the middle or like the base of the tree, and then you have all these branches and stuff coming off. So newsletter,
wheel and spoken wheel.
Yeah, exactly. I think you've talked about that sort of version before.
We'll get the whiteboard. Let's for the next 10 minutes, let's jot some stuff down and build in public here in real time.
Yeah, why not? All right, give me a sec.
So I think this is an interesting thing. Every time that I've felt the most accountable to a goal or a upcoming project or a vision that we want to do, I feel like talking about it either to a family member, a friend, to your spouse, a partner, whatever, or even just putting it out there on social media makes you 10 times more accountable, and it just puts some skin in the game, puts some stakes out there, right?
Yes.
It's worked for me a lot. I'm doing like this very weak fitness challenge right now, which is interesting, but it keeps me motivated to like get after it every day and then post about it. It's not really for anyone other than myself to make sure, hey, did I do that? Give me something to look back on in the future. So same thing here. Like we've got a few things we need to plan out. I mean, the business is not really talked about here. I think that's a more of a personal branding thing.
Yes.
I think let's talk about the goals for this pod, right? People are here listening to the pod. They're not necessarily following us on social media. If you want to, you can see us individually. We'll drop links in the description for you. But let's break down the pod, right? Do you want to put that there, or they're not going to see it anyway, right?
No, like I can show it up on screen.
Are
But
you going to drink that gin or what? Because I'm like, it's looking tasty.
tasty. Do you want a sip of my gin?
Are you going to drink it?
Of course I'm going to drink it.
All right, keep
you can
drinking
no,
it.
have a sip. It's fine. You can have it.
It's all good. So, I mean, reflecting on let's just do the pod. We don't have forever to talk about our boring lives.
Yeah.
So, like, reflecting on like why we got started and stuff in the first dozen or so episodes, I think we were a bit lost about the vision and the what we were expecting. There's a Richard Branson book just down there, by the way, business trip.
Yeah, and I put it over there.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
Was that
yeah.
intentional?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Fair enough. Caught my attention. I think for the first dozen or so episodes, we're just trying to find our feet, trying to find our rhythm, trying to just get the gear set up, get the actual clips and the content produced and get it out there. But we didn't really have a plan on week to week what we wanted to talk about that would allow us to be sustainable and do this long term.
No,
the benefit of the pod, I see, like obviously Joe Rogan experience is like the leading pillar that everyone sort of looks to in terms of the highest quality, but like it's not
the highest potential of podcasting,
well, it's not
right?
even, it's not even the quality. It's more just it's the consistency of what you can achieve after just putting 10,000 hours in, right?
Yeah, essentially.
So the main thing for us now is it's reiterating every episode what minor improvements can we make to make next week better, analyzing little clunks and hiccups along the way, and then figuring out how can we make it better, how can we implement it to make it easier in terms of planning and prepping for the episode, and then the production side of things. And then obviously we want to do this to grow. We're not here to make millions of dollars. Ideally, if we can have a fun 1 hour chat every week and then pay for some small part of life, that would be amazing. We put Archie in daycare a lot of the times just to get him out of here, which costs not much money, but like, I mean, we've got to have minor goals to work to. We're not here to make money necessarily, but if we can cover the cost of running the show, that's one of the first things that I would like to work towards.
No, 100%. Like it's kind of like evolves into our own personal lives, but you want, you have these businesses or side hustles that just help replace like your daily
assets over liabilities.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's turn this pod into an asset. Help us do that, guys.
Yeah. So I think one thing that you sort of brought up before, which we haven't really done too much, is actually probably having a sit-down session after the release of the pod, or even having just like a 10-minute sort of breakdown, because you would edit it, right? And then I would listen for timestamps. So it's a chance for us to sort of both listen to and just, point out, be like, oh, I didn't like that, or I really liked that. Just having a good and bad kind of thing about it. Yeah.
Yes and no. Like, I don't want to listen to all of them, because once you start listening, like, someone needs to do the timestamps. Like, realistically, we're doing this to put onto YouTube and to Spotify and to Apple Podcast. The main thing, the easiest thing, and like the one thing that we enjoy the most is the video component. We have a YouTube channel. We're kind of neglecting it at the moment, hoping to start it up again very soon. But we love the video component that the Spotify, the podcast world is moving into. Like, YouTube has its own podcast tab now.
It is.
It's going to be rolled out.
It's its own ecosystem, really.
It actually, I was reading the other day, YouTube podcasts, pull up the news article here, sort of getting off track a tiny bit. Basically, YouTube is like the biggest platform for podcasts right now. It's even bigger than Spotify stuff. I can't find the exact article now, but it is.
It makes sense because the potential for to getting paid, right? Potential for monetization.
Yeah, and it's just video in general, like vertical video, TikToks, Instagram Reels are like the hot thing going into 2023 and going forward. Like, you can't really go back from short form once it's released into the world. Like, there's a trend moving forward. We're probably gonna have another decade before like AI starts taking over the content production side of things.
Yeah, that's true.
So I guess my point is, like, YouTube's one of our main focuses, not necessarily the audio. Like, audio comes with it, but we want to make sure the video is like fun and engaging. And that for us, that starts with having good articles and clips and stuff prepped and ready that we can reference, so we sound or make the show more interesting, essentially.
Exactly. And we've already sort of started to plan that out, saying from, Sunday to Tuesday, we do our research.
But I guess to your point, I don't want to listen back to the whole episode to see where I'm bad, because we know we're bad. It's going to take another 100 episodes, 200, 300 episodes to figure that out.
Yeah, it's just about putting in the reps.
I guess my main point, circling back now that I actually remember what I was going to talk about, is a very key component for getting more exposure on YouTube is the timestamps and the chapters, because the thumbnail and the title can only take you so far, right? And it's a podcast. Not everyone really wants to watch a podcast yet. So you can only capture a certain amount of audience on there. So having the small edited clips released on the channel is a goal. But then also the timestamps are so important for allowing people to click around, because we want to talk about multiple things in one episode. We don't want to talk about just Twitter for an hour straight, right? That'd be boring for everybody, 100%. Including us.
And you were saying, especially now with, they call them chapters rather than timestamps, they actually come up in the Google SEO.
Search.
Yeah.
So I guess coming back is someone has to listen to this podcast at some point to get the timings. I prefer to do the video editing and the cutting it all up.
Mainly because
someone needs to do
it.
But I wouldn't necessarily worry about the content and the talking points and the pauses and all of this and that. We need to just put in reps, put in 10,000 hours and move forward. So I don't want to listen to it and have a chat post-show about the quality of the actual content. I just want to pump it, plan for next week, make it better.
Because what episode is this going to be when it comes out?
This will be 43.
43. So we're still not going to be able to reach 100 by the end of the year unless we release more episodes.
No, I think we needed to stick to the plan and not, because I get very distracted with alternative paths all the time.
Yes, you're very much the visionary in this relationship. Taking a sip. Drew's very, very good. He gets very, not idealistic, but has a lot of ideas that he wants to implement.
Not many of them are that good. But I get
it's sort of like something that I can do is sort of rein it in and be like, no, let's have a think about this for a second.
I would like to try 100 different things, but we're just spreading our energy and our resources too thin. I think the format that we're doing, 3 to 4 to 5 current topics and articles that we're personally interested in and enjoy researching and chatting about is the winning formula. Like, what else are we going to talk about? Something we have no knowledge in, something we're not interested in just for clicks.
Yeah. Although I did enjoy just the deep dive on the ancient aliens. I thought that was kind of interesting, just talking about maybe a documentary or something like that. So probably the Branson one I could talk about for a whole episode.
But again, we need buckets. And I think the easiest way to encapsulate the show is it's not just about hustling. That's just a funny, goofy name. But anyone can hustle. We're talking about Richard Branson. He's hustling, whether he was trying to do a magazine or a record label. Like, that's a business hustle. There's art hustle. There's people that are hustling, that are making money somewhere else, but hustling and trying to accumulate art. So it's like, for me, and like even the science, like the ancient aliens, like the dude that's putting all that research together and creating the books, he's hustling. Yeah. Anyone that's just like not sitting on their hands is hustling in some degree. So that's what I'm interested in. And like the easiest way to like summarize that is business, science, and culture. I have a science degree. You've been in like a retail environment for a long time. We're hopping off all the points already.
No.
You've been in a retail environment for ages, and a lot of that is around entertainment and culture anyway.
Yeah.
And we're kind of building businesses together. So that business, science, and culture is the 3 sort of pillars that I feel comfortable sitting in, right?
And I think that's something that we just have to remind ourselves, like when we're, we have a whole list of like topics that we can do, but it just has to tie into that business, science, culture aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's main thing. I would say that. So main point, first and foremost, goal setting is stick to the path, or stick to the plan, stick to your guns.
I'll just say stick to the path.
Business, science, culture. Look, that's what I prefer. If you guys aren't enjoying those topics, then this is your chance to leave. We've gotten 55 minutes into the show already.
Sorry, guys.
But then it comes down to what are our goals, not getting sidetracked. I think guests would be amazing at a certain point. Once we've established a following that's worthy of having a guest on. I don't want to waste someone's time.
Yeah. So will that be a goal of 2023 then, is to get guests?
Probably not 2023, but I think let's just grind to 100 and then reevaluate.
So get to 100 will be the goal for next year, because like the only way we get to 100 is consistently putting out episodes.
It doesn't necessarily have to be a 2023 goal. It can be an in 14 months time goal sort of thing.
Yes. Like one thing,
yeah.
sorry, I was going to say one thing that really need to improve on is probably just the promotional aspect of it
So
as well.
we need a promotional content schedule plan just to push it a bit further, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like so shorts, which will also
So let's nut it out right now. What do we need? We need vertical videos. Like we've got very limited time here, so let's pump this out.
So vertical videos.
So I think based on our previous discussions and previous episodes, let's just abandon TikTok completely. We're going to use Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. And then obviously the main long form video and pod is on Spotify and Apple.
Yeah.
So vertical video is the way to like hack the algorithm. We don't necessarily want to hack the algorithm. We just want to increase the odds of someone that will be interested in the show being able to find it, right?
Yeah.
So, an hour content for some new content creator is not that appealing to people. They got to find us. They got to be interested. The way to like find people that might fall into these brackets is to crank shorts.
I think so. Like shorts is going to be the one way to really elevate it. And plus they're like YouTube are really pushing it as well.
This is what I'm thinking, right? YouTube, 1 main video a week. I'm going to write this down before I forget. 1 main video a week. 1 long form, hour. We're doing roughly like 4 topics each week, right? I think 2 of those can be like, we're talking like 15 minutes each on them. They can be summarized into like a 3 to 4 minute punchy clip.
Yep. So
that's more targetable and searchable and can have a better title and thumbnail, because the long form ones, we're talking about 4 topics. We're going to put 1 image in the thumbnail. So let's do that. Like I'd say 2.
I think 2 of those.
Two clips around 3 to 5 minutes. So like topical. And then, I mean, why not just put a short out every other day of the week, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
you fill it in with like little 30-second ones or whatever it is.
4 shorts, regardless of what the top, like a lot of the smartest way to do it is to like look at the trends and the data from the video, the retention, and then see where people are clicking to in the chapters. That's the benefit of the chapters. You can see where they're clicking around to. And then I guess some of the most popular sections that they clicked to, they're the ones that are going to be ideal for creating shorts because they're the most popular segments of that show.
Yeah.
So YouTube, 1 main video, 2 clips, 4 shorts, 1 piece of content every day.
Yeah.
Twitter is just going to be what?
I think just, sharing more of the article, because we show so many articles, right? So sharing those articles, just like a nice little summarized version of it. Also probably sharing some of those little clips as well.
So text-based promo.
Yeah.
You want to write this down? Twitter is just show promo, I guess topic promo, and it all kind of falls under the umbrella of like text-based promo.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's for reading, right? Sharing articles, that sort of thing. We can post that. We can like repurpose and share some videos here and there, but I think it's more the actual content itself.
Yeah. And I think that sort of ties in because I really love to start a Substack, which is so popular for podcasting.
Yeah. So like most podcasts of any notoriety will have a website and show notes and stuff.
Yeah.
Like we're on a tight budget here, right? A Squarespace website is going to cost me $20 a month. This is ridiculous for us at this stage. So I would say a Substack is probably the hack in terms of a free newsletter of, I guess it would be summarizing all the Twitter stuff into one.
Yeah, essentially.
One
and
place.
Then actually using the Twitter as similar to like the shorts aspect, right? It's just the Gary Vee style, right? Repurposing.
Yeah. So Substack will be the show promo in like a longer format with the show notes.
Yeah.
I just do a weekly, because you can actually embed podcasts in that Substack as well.
And because we're doing an episode weekly, we should do a Substack weekly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just supports the show as the links, because no one wants to click the links that are in the YouTube description. And then I guess Facebook, I mean, it's kind of on that dead side recently. That can just be,
it's almost not sharing, but almost like repurpose. But there is a lot of talk of making sure the content is contextual to that platform. Yeah.
Facebook, I'd say just promo the main episode. And then maybe just the best 20 to 30% of the
written stuff,
of the reels and stuff. 20 to 30% of the videos that are like doing well, we just share there as a bit of wider stretch. again, I don't want to do that much work because it takes away from like researching the next week of
100%.
content.
It does. And it's about when you're doing goal setting, it's about being realistic and making sure that the time frame actually works as well. Because like we can write down all this, but each of these tasks is going to take time.
Yep.
So then you have to make sure you have to work your way backwards. All right, like this is going to be half an hour, this is going to be an hour, this is going to take 10 minutes and all that kind of thing. So you got to make sure that when you're goal setting, you have your time frames nutted out as well. And then you pop that into your calendar to see if it works, because or else you're going to find out that you've got like 3 tasks to do in the space of an hour and it's not possible.
The main thing is just repurposing and not double handling the content.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and then finally, Instagram. I mean, realistically, 1 post a day would be great.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just do the artwork, the main episode artwork.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's no real point sharing text-based content like the Twitter stuff, right? It's all image-based. So let's just pump 6 clips to make it a post a day, or six reels. So there's a post in there a day. So I guess the 6 reels would be the main clips that we make out, and then they can be sent to the YouTube Shorts, to Facebook, to Twitter. Yeah. That's the plan. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. It's pretty heaps boring for people. We're going to have an action plan for getting this done, but we've only really been doing the main episode and very little promo to help support it.
Exactly.
And we're going to grow slower than we'd like. If we just take a half-assed approach.
Yeah, if that's something that you're all interested in, just like you just want to grow slowly, or you're just not really fussed about having a following or needing that promotional aspect for it, that's totally fine. Like for us, we want to, I guess, do a little bit more with it, like spread our like promotional or marketing feathers as well in a way. And just practice.
Yeah. If we want feedback, we're going to get slammed with the trolls and the clips. We've done a few clips before and people hate them because we don't know what we're talking about, but that's perfectly fine at the end of the day. I don't really care. Yeah. We're out here trying, putting our skin in the game, trying to get into it.
Yes, putting ourselves out there like Richard Branson, right? Yeah. Putting yourself out there, just trying new things, just being risk-taking, right? Like as if
but the thing is, it's very, very low risk.
Yes. Oh, this is 100% very low risk. The only thing you're risking
is a couple of hours a week. There's no real financial risk here other than the $30 it takes to get Archie sat. Yeah. And that's the beauty of social media. And like anyone that's interested in like creating a personal brand or a small project like this, the risk is so small and the reward can be so small as well. But like it's just about putting yourself out there, putting the reps in, not caring about expectations or responses, and just like doing more than what you think you're capable of. Because we could easily just edit this episode in 5 minutes and then upload it, but it's not doing us any service if we can't take it as far as we possibly can. But we don't want to take it so far where it's just ridiculous and burnt out. We want to grow it slowly and be able to prepare good content each and every week. And like spending too much time on this stuff's going to impact the next week, right? So I think that's a good plan. We'll leave it there for this episode. We'll see you guys in the new year.
Yes.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. We'll see you all.
Have a good one.
2023.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.